Archaeologists opening an ancient grave make a seemingly impossible discovery. We can learn so much from archaeological digs. The items that ancient people left behind give us great insights into how they lived and how we got to where we are today. But sometimes they can create more questions than they provide answers. Often these relics are so unusual and mysterious that they can leave even the most experienced professionals scratching their heads. A recent dig in the Far East was a perfect example. Archaeologists excavated the contents of a burial site, but what they found left them totally baffled. Recently, experts discovered something amazing in a 6th century Turkic burial site in the mountains of Mongolia, and it had everyone talking. The site contained a mummified corpse that had been perfectly preserved thanks to the climate in which she was buried, but that wasn't all they found. When the mummy was buried, she was laid to rest with all sorts of finery of the age. It was the first time researchers were able to get a clear picture of just what the textiles and crafts were from that era. They were so perfectly preserved that they could have been brand new. So how is it possible that such an old mummy, not to mention her possessions, were so perfectly preserved? The answer was simple. The human remains and other objects were all in excellent condition because they'd been buried at a very high altitude. Still, researchers needed to be exceptionally careful with the items, no matter how intact they were, to prevent risk of damaging them. Experts believe that the body was female due to her size and the style of clothing she was found wearing. Usually, there are indicators in the skeleton itself that help experts definitively determine the gender of remains like this, but because the bones warped over time, it was difficult to say. This discovery provided an intriguing insight into this ancient civilization. The researchers also realized that the find offered glimpses into the daily life during that time, thanks to the artifacts that were found alongside the mummy. For example, bags stuffed with ancient bowls and plates were found near her body. It seemed as though the female mummy had been buried with enough dinnerware to host a massive party in the afterlife. In addition to the plates and other objects that were buried alongside the mummy, archaeologists also found a beautiful saddle and bridle. Though these items were uncovered, there were no signs of an actual horse being buried nearby. What really excited the researchers who found the tomb, however, was the footwear the woman was buried in. Her shoes looked exactly like modern sneakers. In fact, when photographs were released, some people joked that time travel must have been involved. The boots themselves were considered to be quite ornate and formal for the time. They would have been as high as her knee, and they seemed to be made from animal hides and woven material. They also featured additional pieces of metal at the base to keep them in place. While it was impossible to definitively say that this woman traveled back to the 6th century, it was also impossible to say that she didn't. You never know. Whether or not time travel was involved was beside the point. What really mattered was the importance of this amazing find. You can't deny the similarities between this mummy's shoes and the footwear of today. Time travel may not have been officially invented, but who are we to question the ways of the universe? Share this mummy's cool shoes with your friends below.